Welcome to Dinar World, your trusted place for calm, clear, and honest discussion about the Iraqi dinar, without the hype, without the fear, and without the emotional manipulation that's taken over this space for far too long. If you're new here, I want to personally welcome you to the community, and if you've been with us for a while, thank you for your continued trust and support. It truly means more than you know. Today's conversation is an important one because emotions across the IQD community are running high. There's a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, and honestly, a lot of anxiety surrounding the January 2026 timeline and these so-called flashing red signals that people claim are appearing on bank systems across multiple financial institutions. For many dinar holders, this feels heavy, it feels urgent, and it feels like everything might finally be coming to a head. So take a breath, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's walk through this together, slowly, clearly, and honestly, because clarity matters now more than ever. Before we go any further, I need to be very clear about one thing. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor, and I'm not here to tell you to buy, sell, or hold anything. What I am here to do is cut through the noise, strip away the exaggeration, and help you understand what's actually happening so you can make your own informed decisions. Let's be real for a moment. The Iraqi dinar space has been flooded with rumors, recycled stories, dramatic headlines, and outright misinformation for years, and too many people have been emotionally exhausted by it. At Dinar World, the goal is simple, to be a steady voice of reason in the middle of all this chaos. So, let's start with the January 2026 date that everyone keeps talking about. What is it really? Where did it come from? And why does it matter? Contrary to what some people are saying, this is not a magical switch date, and it's not some random deadline pulled out of thin air either. From what we understand, through discussions tied to Iraq's broader financial reform planning, January 2026 is being treated as a checkpoint, a target window connected to ongoing efforts to modernize Iraq's banking system, update regulations, improve compliance with international standards, and potentially restructure how the currency functions internally. But here's something that's incredibly important to understand. Government and central bank timelines are not rigid. They are fluid. They move based on political stability, technical readiness, economic conditions, international coordination, and security considerations. So January 2026 should be viewed as a reference point, not a countdown clock. It signals preparation, not instant transformation. Now let's talk about these so-called flashing red alerts on bank screens, because this is where fear really takes over if you don't understand the context. When insiders talk about red alerts or red flags inside banking systems, they are not talking about system failures, crashes, or emergency shutdowns. They are referring to internal monitoring indicators, alerts designed to tell institutions to pay closer attention. These alerts can be triggered by liquidity checks, unusual transaction patterns, compliance monitoring, system upgrades, or preparation for potential policy changes. Think of it like this. In hospitals, aviation, or IT systems, color-coded alerts are used constantly, and red does not mean disaster. It means awareness and readiness. In the case of the Iraqi dinar, these alerts are far more likely connected to system testing, simulations, and preparation protocols related to possible financial reforms. That's not panic, that's planning, and honestly, that's exactly what you would want responsible institutions to be doing. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Does this mean the revaluation is finally happening? Is this the moment we've been waiting for? And I understand that feeling completely. If you've been holding IQD for years, every new development feels like it could be the breakthrough. Hope is human, but this is where we have to separate emotion from analysis. The presence of internal bank alerts and a reform timeline does not automatically mean an immediate revaluation or an overnight explosion in value. What it does tell us is that Iraq is actively preparing its financial infrastructure, and that preparation is real, measurable, and ongoing. And that matters, even if it's not the fairy tale ending some people are promising. To really understand what's happening, we need to talk about one of the most misunderstood topics in the entire IQD space: redenomination versus revaluation. Redenomination is an administrative process where a currency is simplified by removing zeros. For example, a 25,000 dinar note might become a 25 dinar note. Prices adjust accordingly, and purchasing power inside the country remains roughly the same. This is about efficiency and modernization, not instant wealth. Revaluation, on the other hand, is when a currency increases in value relative to others, like the US dollar or euro. These are two completely different processes. They can happen together, but one does not automatically cause the other. Most of what's being discussed around January 2026 points towards internal restructuring, not a massive external windfall for holders. And this distinction is critical because misunderstanding it leads to unrealistic expectations and emotional decisions. Currency value is driven by fundamentals: economic growth, inflation control, foreign reserves, trade balance, political stability, investor confidence, and sound central bank policy. These things take time. They don't change because of a date on a calendar. Even if Iraq executes reforms successfully, any appreciation would likely be gradual and controlled, not sudden and explosive. Now let's address some of the fears I keep seeing everywhere. Will these alerts lead to restrictions, lockouts, or capital controls for holders? Historically, internal monitoring alerts are not designed to target individual holders. They exist to help institutions manage risk and transition smoothly. Legitimate currency reforms usually involve exchange periods, procedures, and official communication. Sudden, secret restrictions would destroy confidence, and that's the opposite of what reform is meant to achieve. That said, for holders outside Iraq, processes can be more complex, which is why following official Central Bank of Iraq announcements is absolutely essential. Not social media rumors, not anonymous insiders, not viral posts filled with rocket emojis. Official sources matter. Another big question is, should you sell now, should you hold, or should you wait? There is no one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on why you acquired IQD, your financial situation, your risk tolerance, how much of your overall portfolio is tied to it, and whether you need liquidity. What I can tell you is this: decisions driven by fear or hype almost always end badly. If January 2026 brings changes, it will be a process, not a single explosive moment. There will be announcements, transitions, and adjustments. Staying calm and strategic is far more powerful than reacting emotionally. I also want to touch on the psychological side of this because it's real and it matters. For many people, holding IQD has become emotional. Years of waiting can turn into attachment, and that's where biases creep in. Confirmation bias, sunk cost fallacy, and selective belief. There's no shame in that. It's human, but awareness is protection. Ask yourself honestly, am I evaluating information objectively or only believing what I want to believe? Clear thinking protects your future. So, what should you actually be doing right now? Stay informed through legitimate channels, keep clear records of what you hold, understand the difference between reform and revaluation, manage your emotions, and make sure your financial well-being doesn't depend on a single speculative outcome. Diversification and balance matter. Here's where we realistically stand as we move towards January 2026. Iraq is genuinely pursuing financial reform. Infrastructure is being prepared, systems are being tested, timelines are being discussed. Something is happening. But the most likely outcome is internal restructuring first, not an overnight miracle. The flashing red alerts are signs of monitoring and preparation, not panic. That alone makes this period different from years of empty rumors. As we move forward, expect more information, more speculation, and unfortunately, more misinformation. Stay grounded. Be the rational voice in the room. Ask for evidence. Think critically. And remember, no matter what happens in January 2026, your entire financial future should never rest on a single speculative outcome. At Dinar World, we'll continue to focus on facts, context, and calm analysis, no matter how loud the noise gets. Thank you for being here. Stay informed, stay steady, and I'll see you in the next update.